Good morning and welcome to Big Bets on Campus Live. It's Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. I'm Stucky, and joining me today are my fellow BBOC co-hosts, Christian, Greg, and Mr. Mike Calabrese. It's the College Basketball Saturday betting preview, and what a day we have in store. Starting off with the bracket reveal, I think at noon or 12:30, and then we have a bunch of great games. March is in the air. Those games are highlighted by two top four matchups. Hasn't happened often, will happen today. We'll talk about both of those games. We'll share two of our best bets each, and we will build our money line parlay. Also, if you want to follow along with any bets, quick slips will be in the description to load up your bets easily. Also, check out at Playbook on Twitter, the automated bot from Action Network. Makes loading your bets very easy. If you want to follow anybody's or create a bet, check it out. It's very worthwhile. Gentlemen, before we get into today's slate, anything from the week that was or anything on your mind, Greg?
Man, I keep thinking about that Arkansas-Alabama game, to be honest with you. Double overtime thriller, the Darius Acuff show. He's hunched over. His teammates are consoling him. Two teammates that rarely even check into games that are trying to finish out double overtime with him. And it just got me excited. We talked about it a little bit in the midweek show, Stuck, but we took a flyer on the SEC to be the conference that plays home to the eventual national champ. I think there's some lurking SEC teams, including Arkansas and Alabama, Tennessee, possibly Vanderbilt. That's going to be a great one today. That all have some firepower in March and could maybe break this bracket wide open if Big 12 injuries continue. I just keep thinking about that special performance from those from Acuff and obviously LeBaron Philon too.
Yeah, Acuff played all 50 minutes. What a performance. Almost dragged Arkansas to a victory with a couple of guys who never play in there at the end with a very shorthanded rotation. Christian, how about you? Anything on your mind?
I'm psyched to get my guy Duke Miles back out there for Vanderbilt today. I don't think it's got enough buzz because everyone's all hyped about Tyler Tanner as a potential, first round pick coming up, and he's obviously been great in the higher usage. Duke Miles is third nationally in steal rate. He was averaging 17 points a game, and Vandy also didn't have Frankie Collins. So, we're hoping to get Frankie back. We might not, but even just getting Duke back in the mix, you're taking so much pressure off Tanner and really helps ratchet up that defensive pressure to another level because that's what Mark Byington wants to do. He wants to turn up the heat with those guards, and you have two incredible point of attack defenders in those guys. So really excited. I think he just makes Vanderbilt much stronger and in a team that can beat teams like Tennessee at home.
Yeah, I bet some Vanderbilt to make the Final Four this week, thinking that okay, now they're going to get healthy. They were also able to build some more depth, right, without those guys in there. But a guy like Miles is another like just scoring valve and outlet for them to have a guy who can get his own shot, just provide some more relief for Tanner. And then, as you mentioned, their ball pressure, but then Byington coaching in a tournament setting, healthier Vanderbilt, they definitely could be a scary team. And they fit the profile, right? Top 20 adjusted offensive and defensive efficiency with a first round draft pick at guard. And that's with some of the injuries they had. So, yeah, very curious to see what Vanderbilt looks like closer to full strength today. Calabrese, what's on your mind?
Miami of Ohio, one step closer to the perfect regular season. The story's been incredible. I know, Stuck, you and I have both been burned trying to figure out the right spot to fade them. I'm done with it. I'm just going to bet over in every one of their games. They're cashing overs at like a 73% clip. Every game is high scoring and entertaining. And Duck and I are kicking the tires on going to the MAC conference tournament. You can sit like courtside at the semis for like $85. So I think we have to do it because that tournament, I cannot wait for it. An Akron, Miami of Ohio title game showdown would be incredible. A two-bid MAC is not outside the realm of possibility at all. So I'm really excited about that conference as a whole. And really, this story, I think, is a perfect balance because you have about 8 to 10 teams that are super elite by every metric, the eye test, all the top freshmen, that story on one side, and then this mid-major magic between Miami of Ohio and SLU. I think it's just like the perfect counterbalance for this season.
Well, you mentioned the MAC. I'll talk about the MAC. Last night I had Siena +3.5. Oh man. Closes two, goes to overtime and loses. But Kavar Kennedy, look, incredible player, freshman, but he gets calls like he's SGA. I mean, it's unbelievable. Justice Schultz, the second most important player for Siena, played 10 minutes and fouled out. He's a guard who normally plays 40 minutes. He averages 1.8 fouls per 40 minutes. He never fouls, and he only played 10 minutes. The game before, Quinnipiac, their starting senior guard, only played 9 minutes because of foul trouble. It's insane. Merrimack went 26 of 26 from the line. I think Kennedy went 16 of 16. The whistle that he gets is crazy. So I'm sorry about that. But Doty did everything that he could to get Siena to the window, but they failed in overtime. All right, let's move on to today's slate. Let's go to Greg first. First best bet. What do you got?
I'm jumping aboard the Illini train here, and I get it. It's a terrible spot. Spot be damned. They've got Michigan on Friday. This is the second leg of the West Coast trip, but goodness, they just put up the best half in the history of the Ken Pom database in the first half against USC. Stojakovic is back. They are fully healthy for the first time in a month and a half. And I think this team has the answers and the mojo for a UCLA team that really could quit on their coach. And this is not just a psychological handicap because Illinois is going to dominate the boards. They're the fourth best offensive rebounding team in the sport. UCLA is extremely vulnerable there outside the top 200. We know that. But then you think about what's the formula for UCLA to pull an upset or make this interesting. It's got to be a great Donovan Dent game. I think this is the perfect defensive matchup to frustrate Donovan Dent. Illinois' whole scheme baits you into shooting jumpers and hitting tough shots to oversize and length. That's not Dent's game. He has 8 made threes on the season. I don't think those nooks and crannies to get in the paint in this game are going to be there for him. And then you do talk about Mick Cronin, what he did, throwing his own player out of the game. He apologized this week, but if there was ever a time for a team to sort of just not respond to a jackass head coach, I think it's right here against an amazing Illinois team that is so connected and so potent offensively.
I'm against you here, Greg. I saw 7.5 this morning. I had to take it on the spot.
Ah,
Normally these spots get taxed, and this would be like 5 or something on these Saturday spots. But I mean, UCLA off 230 plus point losses. Illinois off of a perfect game with Michigan on deck. I had to take it. UCLA is a much better team at home, but you're right. Some of the matchup things worry me. Illinois, what UCLA's defense is going to do is they're going to force Illinois to shoot threes, and if Illinois is hot, they're probably not going to be able to keep up. So I do have to hope for an off shooting night for Illinois, and hope that Bilodeau and Dent and company can live in the mid range. I had to take the spot, but I get some of the things that you're saying. Illinois doesn't turn it over. They can shoot the three, and they could just get every offensive rebound, which is definitely concerning. Christian, what are you looking for your first best bet?
Real quick, I think Donovan Dent's going to take a ton of middies today, so his points prob of 13.5 is interesting. Even if he doesn't hit a single three, he could cover that. I'm looking at Colorado minus 3.5 at home against Oklahoma State. Colorado's a team that I was super high on and thought was like a potential NCAA tournament team earlier this year, and I was profiting from betting them. They're 4-9 in Big 12 play, but they've won their last 2 at home, and those last 2 home wins came in a 26-point win over TCU and an 8-point win over Arizona State. And now Oklahoma State coming to town. Oklahoma State is in that same kind of family of style of TCU and Arizona State. These fast-paced Big 12 teams that want to turn you over. And Colorado, when they're taking care of the basketball, are a great offense. They're top 25 in the country in turnover percentage. So, and they shot over 60% from the field from 2-point land at home. They just start this jumbo lineup and create looks at the rim. They move the ball really well. Some games just get away from them, like you lose by 34 at Texas Tech, lost by 30 at Iowa State, and that kind of drags down their metric profile. But this is a really good offensive team that's tough to beat at home. And Oklahoma State, you got some guys like Anthony Roy and some shot-making guards, but I just think Colorado's going to be able to get whatever they want offensively. And I also like that Tad Boyle has been kind of playing around with this lineup a bit. He's starting 3 freshmen at this point, and they're kind of an outlier program. They don't get a lot of attention for it, but the way that they're able to retain players, all this to say is I still think they're building late in the season. It's not like they're giving up or anything. Oklahoma State, their NCAA tournament chances are thin. I just really like this spot for Colorado. I think they're really tough to guard. And Oklahoma State is the second worst defense in the Big 12. So sets up really well for Colorado to handle this pressure, use that size to score efficiently inside the arc and cover the number.
Yeah, in a year where the freshman class is absolutely amazing, some guys who normally would get attention aren't. And Isaiah Johnson's one of those guys that very good player that doesn't get as much recognition as he should because, I mean, look at the freshman class. Uh, Mike, what are you looking at for your first best bet?
I'm gonna go to the Mountain West. Wyoming's traveling down south to play Grand Canyon. I'm fine laying 7.5, 8.5. Wyoming has one true road win this entire season. It was against Air Force, who's absolutely cheeks. I mean, I think they're 3-23 overall. They're over in Mountain West play. Opponents get so many easy looks against the Pokes. They're 257th in opposing shooting percentage from the floor. And this Antelope team is hot. They just went to the Viejas Arena, beat San Diego State outright. They've been a strong double-digit favorite for much of this season, and they handed this same Cowboy team a loss in Laramie on their home floor when the Antelopes came in as an outright underdog. And, zooming out even further, Bryce Drew is just a really good mid-major coach. I know that everything went wrong at Vandy, but in terms of like a career rehab, what more does he have to do at GCU to get himself into a power conference job? I think this could be his last year there. And what's interesting is that in a lot of cases with mid majors, you don't necessarily have the overall team size. Maybe you have one solid 6'10", 7-footer kind of guy, but they are deep in their front court. Their Turkish freshman, Effie Demerel, has been fantastic, 7'1". And when they're able to throw bodies at this Wyoming team, the only thing that the Pokes do well is rebound the basketball. But I think that's going to be neutralized here. So beyond just like this play, I think Grand Canyon is going to be an interesting choice to potentially be a team that surprises and wins the Mountain West tournament. I want to obviously get a good number on it because they're going to have to go through Utah State and New Mexico and some of the top teams there. But they've acquitted themselves really well against the top competition in the Mountain West. Brian Moore Jr., I think, is the key to winning this one going away. At Norfolk last year, he shot 39% from three. This year, he's doing the same thing. I just want to see a higher volume of long shots from him. But GCU, I think, wins this one going away by double digits.
Yeah, we'll see if the Mountain West can have a bid steal because as of right now, it looks like one bid league unless someone else wins it. I mean, I think if the season ended today. All right, I'm going to go way off the beaten path as usual. I'm going to go with Mercyhurst at home against Long Island. Yeah, we're taking the Lakers, catching, I think we can get a three out there still. Since January 1st, first of all, it's a good spot. Like Long Island just clinched the regular season title. They clinched the one seed on Thursday. They beat St. Francis by two. Now they're going on the road to play Mercyhurst in their final home game of the regular season. So decent spot. You might get a flat effort from Long Island here. But it's also a pretty good matchup for Mercyhurst. They don't turn the ball over. These are two defenses that force turnovers at a top 50 rate. Long Island turns it over a ton. Mercyhurst doesn't. They're going to grind this game down to a halt, play slow, keep Long Island out of transition. And also, it doesn't hurt that Long Island is one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the country. And how do I know they match up well with them besides statistical profiles? Well, last year, both games went to overtime. Earlier this year, at Long Island won by two. And if you look per Torvik, since January 1st, the best team in this conference is Long Island. The second best is Mercyhurst, and they're not far apart. I think it's 250th to 260th. There hasn't been that much difference. It's just that Long Island, who's been one of the luckiest teams in the country per chem bomb, per shot quality, however you want to look at it, has won all their close games. Mercyhurst hasn't. Mercyhurst is 13-3 in conference play at home over the past 2 years. Two of those losses came in overtime. Since January 2nd, here are their losses in league play. Two at Long Island by two, Stonehill in overtime, Chicago State by four, FDU by three, Lemoyne by one, and then Wagner in overtime by three. They're in every game. I think this will be close. It's a good spot. It's a good matchup. So give me the Lakers in Erie. That'll do it for our first round of best bets. More to come, but I got to let you know first about our special deal with Action Pro. Michigan versus Duke isn't the best thing happening this weekend. The best thing is Action Network is making Action Pro free through Sunday. To celebrate our brand new UFC projections, we're pulling down the paywall like Ruben Chinilo pulls down boards. I thought we were going UFC there. I didn't know we were talking about Chinilo. If you're not a member, just log in to your Action Network account and you can access prop projections, real-time money percentages, and premium content for free through Sunday. Lock in now. All right, let's get to those two marquee matchups that everybody can't wait for. We'll start with Arizona taking on Houston. Houston has taken some money this morning. Greg, what are your thoughts here? You agree with the move and are back in the Cougs at home in a pretty good spot?
Yeah, I'm with the money here, and the line's moving in an unfavorable direction for me. There's probably a breaking point for me around 6, but I got it at Houston minus 4.5 last night. 48 home games for Houston in the last 3 seasons, 47 wins. 46 times they've covered 4.5. They just blitz teams at home. A couple weeks ago, I hypothesized they're the best team in the Big 12. It was a sell high spot on Arizona back then. Since then, they're 1-2 in their last three. I really do think the Koa Pete absence matters, but also Dwayne Aristode being out matters. They're basically down their best two athletes that they play at the three. This is a team that really relies on physically brutalizing their opponents. You're not going to do that to a Houston team without your two best athletes at the three. You're going to see a ton of Karchenkov, Del Orso minutes at the three. I think it's a terrible matchup for those guys to get out and guard whoever the third guard is that they want to leave from Houston's trio. And I think the spot reminds me a lot of Iowa State, Kansas a week ago. We kind of did that preview in a marquee game, and all the money was moving toward Iowa State. We were kind of, how far do we want to go here? The spot is going where it's going for a reason to me. I think you got to be all over the home team, and I will be here.
Samson, by the way, home favorite of 6 or fewer points, 16-2 against the spread at Houston, covered 10 in a row. Christian, you're looking at the under here, and if these games go how they did last year, you should be in good shape. What are you saying?
Yeah, I definitely lean Houston if I were to make a play on the spread. I like the under because, like you said, two matchups last season. We had a 62-58 game and a 72-64 game. You talk about the way these teams like to win. Houston, one of their strengths is offensive rebounding, and Arizona is a great defensive rebounding team. So that takes away their second chance opportunities. Houston averaged just 7.5 offensive rebounds per game in those two matchups. When you take the 33rd fastest team in the country and one of the 12 slowest teams in the country, there's a pace mismatch. Who sets the pace? I lean towards the healthier team, the home team, and in my opinion, the better team right now. One other interesting note: if I'm not mistaken, Dwayne Aristode's still out for this game too, right?
Yeah, he's
It's
out.
not
Yeah.
just Pete. So what does that put pressure on? Aristode's a 3-and-D guy off the bench. You got to play Anthony Del Orso more. And sure, he played great at home against an undermanned BYU team and hit 4 threes. Del Orso was basically unplayable against Houston last year. He only played 5 minutes in the Big 12 tournament against them and only, 14 minutes when they played in Tucson. So that means Karchenkov, and we already have talked ad nauseum about Arizona's low 3-point rate, right? It's like if Berries and Karchenkov aren't hitting threes, there is no floor spacing to take away, on that weak side when Houston's bringing pressure to the ball. Like a guy like Del Orso really matters a lot, but he might not even be able to stay on the floor. So Arizona's thinner. All signs point to Houston, but I feel even more comfortable with the under because this will be a slow-paced half-court game. And
Yeah, I mean Houston's
140
Houston's
spot
gonna
number.
I think Houston's gonna keep Arizona out of transition, keep them away from the rim. Like I think the best path for Arizona's offense has got to be the offensive glass. Like that's where they have to dominate and get second chance points. And Calabrese, you're disagreeing with both Greg and Christian. You're parlaying both. You're fading both by parlaying. You're looking at the over and Arizona.
Yeah, I'll take the 6.5. I'll go over 139.5. It's, north of 5-2 out in the market. I still think this is a top 20 team without Pete, and I'll push back on Pete's absence a little bit because the Wildcats beat Alabama, UCLA, and BYU all on neutral floors or away from Tucson, with Pete scoring 7, 6, and 10 points. He's done plenty of disappearing acts offensively on the court. So the fact that he's off the court here, I think his actual absence isn't necessarily a death knell. 5 players on this team can easily go for double digits, including Del Orso. You mentioned he just played his best game probably of the entire season, burying 4 triples against BYU. But if you go back in time earlier in the year on a neutral floor against UCLA, he also made 4 threes in that game. So I think there's an opportunity for him to bring something that they haven't necessarily relied on. And to beat this Houston defense, you're not just going to do it with 2-point looks and scoring in the half court. You have to be able to make shots from 30 plus feet. And then on the other side, the only thing that hasn't been mentioned is Houston's problem closing things out against elite teams. They led Texas Tech on the road with under 6 to play. They lose outright. They didn't close out things against a dead Kansas State team, failed to cover recently. And then the Iowa State melt, they're up, 10 with 7 to go. They lose outright. So I don't necessarily trust them to just absolutely run away with this game if they have a second half lead. And this Arizona team, I just think the market correction has gone too far in the opposite direction. When they opened this season, with 23 straight wins, I think everybody was waiting for the shoe to drop. Now I think we're going too far. I'll go ahead and take the value at 6.5.
It's a pass for me. I mean, the spot's all Houston, but like the price has just gotten a little too far out there. So we'll just be enjoying that. Maybe look for something live, but nothing pregame. Let's move on to the second marquee matchup between Michigan and Duke on a neutral court in Washington, D.C. Over under They're over under 27 times the announcers say this is like a Final Four game. This feels like a Final Four game. I'll take the over. Uh, Michigan, I think, still holding around what, 2.5 point favorite here. Greg, you're rolling with the Wolverines.
Yes, I am. Before I get to my breakdown of that, can we just appreciate how exciting this game in this moment is going to be to me? Like, this is a gift from the college basketball scheduling gods. This could have been a big game regardless, but 1 versus 2, Ken Palm with a month left in the year. Rumors Michigan's going to go Fab Five, black socks, black shoes tonight. I'm all into this. I think this is a great opportunity to get in on Michigan at a price you're not going to see again, possibly until a Final Four or a national championship on a neutral court, -2.5. If this goes the way I think it will matchup wise, you're just not going to get this price, and I have to take the opportunity. I don't think a team that relies on front court production can get Michigan just point blank. I think Cameron Boozer is the best player in the country, clearly. But I think, North Carolina put the formula out there. If you've got two bigs and you can bring a lot of attention to him, just force him to make tough shots, maybe take away some of the playmaking stuff, it's a pretty good formula to beat Duke. And there is no team better suited for any front court star in America defensively than Michigan. Merez Johnson is probably the toughest individual matchup Boozer's had, but then you've got Mara lurking weak side for blocks. They're going to probably use Yaxel Lendeborg on him at times. They just wear teams down. And, it brings me back. It's different, but in players era, we kind of learned that with healthy Gonzaga front court. And you saw Michigan mix up their coverages and switch 1 through 3 and then 1 through 5 later in the game. They keep you off balance. I think they'll do that to Boozer. And then keep an eye on guard depth. Michigan's bench guards, Kaysen and McKinney, have been so important to some of these pull away victories. I think you look at Duke's guards, especially in that North Carolina game, they were playing Foster, Evans, Sarr, all 33 to 37 minutes. I don't like that for them in this game where Michigan's really fresh down the stretch with the pace they play so relentless. I just think Michigan pulls away. It's close early, but I think it's a double-digit win for the Wolverines late.
Yeah, I get some of your points. I'm rolling with the under. I think that so number one, I think Duke's going to slow this down. They're very good at keeping teams out of transition, which you need to do against Michigan. Both teams are very good on the offensive glass, but both teams are good on the defensive glass. So I think that each team can neutralize and kind of limit the second chance opportunities. And think about how many open looks both of these teams get because you have to help so much on their bigs. That's not necessarily going to be the case here. And I do think Boozer, this is going to be the toughest matchup by far. And he's going to go up against elite size. Not sure Duke's going to efficiently score inside. And, on the other end, I think that Duke is one of the few teams that at least has the size that can battle Michigan. You don't have to help as much. I think they're going to turn Michigan into jump shooters. Now, if Michigan makes 40% of their threes, they're going to win this game. There's no doubt about that. But the only way I think this goes over, if it plays out how I think it does, is if one or both teams are hot from three, neutral court. I'll take my chances on it not being, because I do think Duke really wants to focus on slowing this game down, and I think both teams can do enough damage on the defensive glass to limit second chance opportunities to keep this lower than the total. Christian, what are you looking at here?
I lean Michigan as well. My favorite play on this game is Cameron Boozer to hit over 1.5 threes. We all know that Wisconsin beat Michigan by spacing the floor with their bigs. 5 of 10 for Bielaskis, 3 of 4 from Winter. And Michigan definitely has optionality of whether you throw Yaxel at him or Merez. I don't think we'll see a die on him because Duke typically will have Malik Brown or Gongba out there. But to me, the interesting note is when Duke played Florida at home, which is the most similar team to Michigan in terms of just having Tommy Howe at the 3 and the optionality that gives you and the problems that creates. Boozer took 9 threes, and Florida would put Chinyelu on him, and Boozer can shoot it by taking a couple of dribbles into that shot or just spacing it on a pop.
And he's shooting close to 40% on the year. He's going to need to take some Michigan.
And he's a great shooter. Just with Michigan's elite rim denial and 2 point defense, you kind of have to take what you can get. And I think Boozer taking open threes is a great shot for Duke to get in this game. So I think he'll take at least 4 or 5. So I really like the odds there. I might ladder it up to 3 as well. And in that Florida game, Shire threw out a triple big lineup with Malik Brown, Gongba, and Boozer out there. And Gongba and Malik Brown they can shoot it like if they're left open, but Boozer is the only one of those guys that I would consider a shooter. So if that lineup Duke goes to, then Boozer might be off the ball a little bit more or not in the ball screen action and ready to shoot the basketball. So I agree with Greg. I think there's levels to this. I think Michigan is the clear best team in the country right now, but it's crazy the way that sometimes that I think about Duke, considering they are number 2 on KenPom, and the fact that they could easily be undefeated. Like both those 2 losses, like
They were right there.
Anderson goes
Yeah.
nuclear, they lose by 1, and then against Carolina. So rolling with Michigan, but I think Boozer gets some threes up today for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he is going to and needs to get a few more than he normally does up from distance. Calabrese, you're going against the grain here today. You're going Boozer under points.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have already hit on it in terms of Michigan's, optionality in their front court, being able to deny him in the post, double him when he does have the ball. Obviously, the three-point element is worrisome from any under perspective on player points, but the Wolverines' two-point defense is second in the country. Average two-point distance in terms of shots is the furthest from the hoop in the entire sport. They rebound really well, so I think that's going to prevent some easy putback buckets. They held Steinbach to 11 points. Graham Ike went 0 for 9 from the floor for 1 point. And Boozer against ranked opponents, when you look at this exact point total, 5 cashes and 5 times he was held beneath it. So I think from a game plan perspective, it's obvious that it focuses on Boozer first. I think if I can get fewer than 3 triples made, they get held to, he shoots 2 for 7 from long range, I think this one cashes. Obviously, it's a big difference, and I think Christian's point is well taken in terms of how they use him differently and they want to space the floor. But if he doesn't have a big night from 3-point range, I think this one cashes on the under.
All right, can't wait for that one tonight in the
What,
nation.
what about a little negative correlation, reverse correlation parlay? Could we get the over on the threes and the under on the points? What would that
Now
pay
we're
out?
talking.
I don't know, but we'll have to check. We'll get our
Reminds me of
producer
Irish.
to pull it up, and then Michigan too. All right, while you pull that up, we'll throw that we'll throw that in the description. We'll throw a quick slip in. But let's get to our money line parlay. Greg, a lot of pressure because 2 weeks ago we hit the first 3, and then you had our last leg at night, which should have hit. I mean, Tennessee choked away a huge lead, but you're leading off today and going with the last game on the board.
Yeah, I'm so devastated from that moment. I just want to put myself in vulnerable spots to do it again. Give me BYU in the late game. It's a buy low spot on BYU, but I really do like some of the tweaks that we saw from Kevin Young in the first game post Richie Saunders injury. Some zone, some slower half court offense. I think they need to limit possessions. I think he needs to throw the kitchen sinks at teams from a schematic perspective to both protect DeBonsa and Rob Wright from fatigue, but also just to turn this as much into one-on-one scoring and keep it close until there's 4 minutes left and let DeBonsa take over. Look, Iowa State could certainly just blitz DeBonsa, run 3 bodies at him, force some turnovers, and I could feel stupid for this. But in terms of spot, this is the hottest team in the country, Iowa State, coming off the best week in the sport with a tough trip to a very difficult place to play. And I don't think they do have a great option in terms of one-on-one defense on DeBonsa. Now, I know Otts is going to have a great scheme and throw multiple bodies at him, but I would feel better about it from an Iowa State perspective if you liked Momcilovic or Jefferson individually on DeBonsa. I don't think either one of those guys can stay in front of him whatsoever. If we get a good DeBonsa game here, I think there is some good buy low value on BYU plus money.
Yeah, I don't mind this. It's the spot is all BYU. The only thing, I mean, just they're gonna throw to it Bonsa all the time, and that's when you're not gonna miss Saunders in the defensive end. You're probably gonna be better defensively without him. But he was so big. They swept Iowa State last year, and Saunders was mass. I think he had like 50, close to 50 points in the 2 meetings with that weak side shooting. Now it's like, I mean, can we get a Kennard Davis game?
Need
But
it.
like you just lose that shot and that presence on the weak side that now you can just basically ignore whoever's in there for Saunders. So they're really going to miss him on the offensive end. But DeBonsa is good enough to just, he's probably going to get 30 shots up again. He's going to try. All right, so Greg's rolling with BYU money line. Christian, who you rolling with?
Give me Syracuse beating Carolina at home. We're getting plus money here again. Obviously, no Caleb Wilson. It's looking like no Visar either. It'd be pretty surprising at this point if he goes. He was listed as questionable, and he only practiced limited. So those two combined for 39 when Carolina smoked Syracuse in Chapel Hill. The final score looked like it was close, but they were down like 20 something for most of the game. So against NC State, we get 30 minutes of Zayden High and 34 minutes of Jaron Stevenson. That's too much for me. Zayden High played 1 minute against Syracuse in that game that they blew him out. And Jaron Stevenson, I liked him at Alabama as just kind of a catch and shoot, wing with size. But at Carolina, playing the 4, I don't like it nearly as much. And Carolina kind of relies on Bogovac, Trimble, and Dixon for self-creation. And I just don't love it. You don't have the guard play. Yeah, I like Kyan Evans as a player. You whiffed on him in the portal. Carolina was 5 for 33 from deep against NC State. Dixon is 2 of 18 from deep over his last 3. Syracuse has won 3 straight at home. You kind of just burn the tape from the Duke. Like, they're not able to compete with a team like Duke, especially at Cameron. You got the revenge spot. You've got a Carolina team that I just don't think is that good without, I don't know, they're by far their 2 best players. And this is the type of game that in a season where, sure, Syracuse fans want a new coach and everything, and they're kind of dead. Like, you're playing Carolina at home. Like, that's the spot, fans show up for and the players get excited for. So I think Syracuse plays really good defense and finds enough offense with Nate George and these guys.
Reese, what do you got?
I'm going to talk Texas right now. I think, the SEC has taken a back seat because, these other power conferences have kind of like a clown car of national title contenders. But by them flying under the radar as a conference, I think also Texas has kind of been a sleepy story. They've either won outright or been in a dogfight every single game for 6 straight weeks, including beating this Georgia team by 20. Wins at Alabama, Mizzou, I think show their upside away from Austin. And Swain is in the convo with Florida's Hauk to be the best big in the SEC. He's averaging 19 and 9 with 3.5 assists on 55% from the floor across their last 5 all UT wins. So I'm going to go ahead here with the Longhorns. I locked it in at plus 140, but really anything at plus 120 or better, I think the value is on UT.
Yeah, pretty good matchup for Texas against Georgia. I'm going to stay in the SEC, and I'm going to go with Vandy. Talked about it earlier. Healthy, Miles back. I think he's huge on both ends of the floor. Tennessee might not be at full strength. I think they can cause turnovers here, potentially get the Tennessee guards into foul trouble, and that should be enough to get it done at home. So we got Texas, Vandy, Syracuse, and BYU. That pays out around 15 plus 1540 at FanDuel. All right, before we get out of here, at the buzzer, final best bets, 10 to 15 seconds with your explanation. Greg, what do you got?
I'm going so against my brand here, but give me a under 151.5 Western Michigan, Central Michigan. I was in a
You got the Michigan where you got. Is this because you got confused and Michigan is in there?
Right, I saw the name, right? No, listen, I'm in state, of course, and I watched this game in person in Kalamazoo earlier this year. Both these teams are terrible. 11 straight in this series have gone under this number. In all 11, one team has scored in the 60s or worse. There's some games in the 50s and the 40s. This hit 142 in the first meeting, but there were tons of fouls late. There were like 55 points scored in the final 8 minutes. Neither of these teams plays fast. Neither team shoots threes. I'm just baffled by the number. I expect this to be in the 140s at most.
You went to this game, the first meeting?
I did. Yeah.
Wow.
Never say I don't love mid-major hoops, Stuck.
You're not traveling to Mount Pleasant for the rematch today
Nope.
on this day of hoops. You're gonna miss this live. Wow. Christian, what do you got?
Going against my boys again. That's just the point we're at with Wake Forest. I'm taking Virginia Tech minus 4.5. Wake needed a buzzer beater to beat them at home in early January. That was with Nate Calmise. Don't know Nate Calmise today. He had 25 and 7 in that game. Virginia Tech didn't have Toby Lawal. He's back. Virginia Tech had 19 turnovers in that game. Most of them came in the first half. They take care of the ball at home, execute their offense. Deeks had no answer for Imani Hansberry. They're soft on the inside. Great number in Blacksburg.
Calabrese.
Greg's been stealing all my picks. I get in the sheet and he already has all the picks in. By the way, I wanted BYU money line. I got one better. Take DeBounce to get 30 points and the money line pays 7-2. So just go ahead and parlay that. Same thing with the Illinois game, but you know what? I'm going to go a different angle. I think Illinois absolutely caves their head in this game. I'm going to lay 19.5, go the max alt line on DraftKings plus 500. The Illinois Fighting Line, I have every opportunity in front of them to grab a 1 seed because UConn has stumbled. The Big 12 is cannibalizing itself, but they have to win and win convincingly on the road. Boswell's back. This is the highest rated Ken Pom offense of all time, 1.5% higher than the second best team in the database back to 97. And Underwood's whole philosophy is matchup hunting, and this UCLA defense has a lot of matchups to exploit. In the past month, they're 182nd in Torvik defense. So this is a team that absolutely can be, posterized on the low block. They can get wide open threes all over the place. And they're already acclimated to the West Coast trip. They go to USC, smoke them by 36. It's a 20-minute crosstown trip to Westwood. I'm going to go all in on the Fighting Illini to win by 20 plus.
All right, nobody likes to put themselves out there to potentially look dumber than I do by betting bad teams. So let's close the show with Army against Navy. I mean, we're at the peak of the market on Navy. They've covered 9 or 10 in a row. They're laying 9.5, 10 here on the road. Number one, the spot. Navy just clinched their first outright regular season title since the 90s. They clinched the 1 seed. Do we get their best effort, full max out effort here against Army? I'm not sure. Someone's eventually going to make an outside shot against Navy. Army's going to fire them up. I don't know. I think it's a good spot, decent matchup. Army should come out fired up here. They got embarrassed in the first meeting by Navy. Give me Army. That'll do it for us. Make sure you check out Big Bets on Campus podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, 3 episodes per week. And then we'll ramp them up come March. We'll be previewing every single conference tournament. So make sure you tune in for those. We'll be back live show same time next Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Thanks to Christian, Greg, and Mike for joining me. Thanks to our producers on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. Good luck today with all of your wagers. Enjoy the hoops. We'll see you next week. Cheers.